Hello guys, I decided to shoot a series of videos on my little project here. Well, I shouldn't call it little, it's probably going to be a big project. So I called the video VF750F Resurrection. So what happened a few years ago, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, do you want a bike? And me, being a hoarder, said, yeah, sure, bring it over. And he says, no, you have to come pick it up. So I went and picked up, and that's pretty much what you see here, except all this stuff was in these banana boxes. So, and I brought it over, set it in my garage. I guess it's set for a few years as well. So and now I kind of decided to pull the boxes out and see what I can do with that stuff before I guess I throw it in the garbage or something. I don't know. So we'll see, because I'm not even sure if I have all the parts to put it together or not. So the history of the bike. The last time this thing was insured and actually was on the road is 2003. The bike originates from back east, which is Ontario. So therefore I can see there's quite a lot of rust and on parts and some corrosion. If you see this, aluminum covers have not a lot, but some corrosion. You can see it, and that's a sign of the bike from back east. I guess there was lots of rain. I don't know. I don't think he rode it in the winter. So we'll see. The bike is in kind of an okay shape. You can see the fairing. There are a few things missing. The tank is really bad. There's a lot of rust inside the tank. So that's going to be a lot of work to do. So far I'm just kind of go over what I've done, and from now on I'll try and shoot main points of the restoration project. So first thing, of course, what I've done, I got the frame, so I cleaned up the frame and I painted it. Where I was debating if I should powder coat it or not, but that was supposed to be a budget project, so try to keep it under $1,000. That's my goal. Right now, with some parts that I bought, I'm up to $500. So try to keep it under $1,000, and I guess I'll be happy with that. So you can see I painted the frame. This is brake caliper paint. It's not bad. It's easy to paint. There's no runs, no nothing. The only thing, if you rub the paint, you can see there's some silver coming off. So I'm not sure if I should clear coat it or not. I think at this point I'm just gonna leave it the way it is, and we'll see later on how the paint. Maybe I'll just take a rag and wipe it, all this loose paint. So like I said, I painted the frame, I painted the swing arm, I changed the bearings on the swing arm, and I kept the old seals. The seals were okay, even though they're 30 years old, but they're still pliable, and so I thought I'll just keep the seals. So I kept the old seals, just replaced the bearings, greased, installed it back. This is just a few pieces that I thrown on top. There's a rubber plastic fender, and see, it looks kind of a new. that mothers back to black. Works really good on these plastic pieces. It's all gives you like an original shine, and I'm really pleased with that product. It doesn't work as well on the car pieces. I'm not sure what the plastic is, but makes it really shiny and kind of a slippery, but gives it a nice sheen. So I just keep my my seat here, and of course you can see these are all the rest of the pieces. I have another box over there. So the other things what I've done so far, I've taken apart the wheels. You can see that's the front wheel. So I cleaned it up. I replaced the bearings, replaced the seals, cleaned up the bolts, replaced all the grease, and to speak with about if you go to allballsracing.com, you can buy kits. It's basically has the two bearings and the two seals, or depending how many seals and bearings you need, and they have them for front wheel, rear wheel, steering neck. I think the other one I bought was for the front brake, master cylinder rebuild kit, and well, the fork seal kit. So I bought five kits, and they fairly cheap. And some of them are 20 bucks, some of them are 15. Of course, to mention, any projects I started, try to get some literature. So I got lucky. This bike came with this climber, call it manual. Basically, it's a repair manual. It's not. It's pretty good. I haven't read it all the way yet. And of course, the original shop manual. That's a printout that I got. So that's really helpful because it has all the torques and specs and instructions how to take it apart and put it back together. All right, back to what I've done so far. So I just finished rebuilding the front wheel. I'm not gonna go nuts, but if you see, there's a little bit of corrosion. Like this part should be ideally probably polished, because it gives you a nice kind of a contrast between black and shiny, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. At this point, my main target is to get this bike on the road and basically start the engine. Next thing, I pretty much just disassemble stuff. I've taken apart, if you see over there, so that's the rear wheel that I've taken the bearings out. I cleaned it up. Next thing is gonna be, I need to replace the tire. This tire is done. Well, there's a little bit of thread left, but the guy also gave me a new tire for the rear wheel. It's probably old because the rubber, and I don't think it's really safe to keep it there, but to start the bike and see how it runs on the road, I think I'm gonna install it, and if the bike has no issues and stuff, then I'll buy a set of new tires and then replace it. Okay, next thing, you can see those are all the bolts and nuts that I found in the bags. The rear shock right here. So I pulled the seal of the rear shock and I ordered that stuff. You can see that what used to be a rear brake main master cylinder, this thing was in really rough shape. All the paint was coming off. The brake fluid actually eats on that I'm not sure if it's a paint or it's a powder coating. I think it's a powder coating. Even the powder coating wouldn't stand up to the brake fluid, so I had to clean it manually. All the brake fluid that was inside was turned into some kind of a not a jelly, it's some kind of it's crystallized. So this part is all rusted. Cleaned it up. It looks dark like that because I used the rust converter, and that makes the rust turn into kind of a brownish grayish coat. So I think so. Yeah, that's the main brake cylinder. I got a rebuild kit for that, and in here you can see rear brake caliper. So these are all the pieces that I've taken apart for the brake caliper. I cleaned it up first, and then I decided to actually replace it because the brake caliper is in really rough shape. Somebody bit with a hammer on it, and then they modified. Here you should have pins that the brake pads slide on. Well, these pins were taken off and replaced with a thing like that, where I think they welded a nut to a threaded rod and then machined it. So I mean, it works fine, but I want to kind of restore it to the original. So that the original pins had a plate that sits in here with the bolt, and that has like a keyholes that hold those pins in place. What they replaced it is with this part, so that just goes in and it just threads in. It's actually, I give the kudos to the guys who did this. I mean, the part work and everything, but I bought a new brake caliper, so that's the new brake caliper that I bought on eBay, and you can see that's the plate that should be there. So this one's in a little bit better shape, even though it has a little bit of let me turn around, has a little bit of paint coming off from the brake fluid. Hopefully it's gonna be okay, so I'll have to rebuild this one using parts from both of them. All right, these are the front brakes. It's all in pieces. I taken them apart and ordered all the new seals to be replaced. Well, and that's kind of it so far. What I've done. I'm just moving slowly, and at this point I'm kind of waiting for parts. That's the engine. The engine will need to be cleaned. I sprayed it with the WD-40, so just to take the grime and the dust off. Need to take this cover off and polish it. Need to take the top covers, polish that. They look ugly. The clutch cover, the guy who had the bike originally, he took it off. It's over there, and he told me he wanted to polish this and paint the cover, so I'll have to do that, polish and paint. The radiator, I'm not sure if the bike was dropped, but you see this piece is coming off, so I'll have to solder that. Some of the plastic pieces like that has this funny, ugly, non-standard fasteners that is going into this hole, so I'll have to fill up the holes. Maybe I'll use like a JB weld and then drill it, and to use proper hardware. So there's a lot of work on this bike, but we'll move slowly, and hopefully I'll get a chance to film most of the stuff that I'm doing. And to finish, oh yeah, the fridge. So that's one of the main things for the garage. This is where I keep the beer. Also, I keep my barbecue meat, and also where I keep my bearings. And I keep my bearings in a freezer so the grease doesn't go bad and the seals stay fresh. And of course that's a joke for guys. I keep the bearings in the freezer so it's easy on installation. Ideally you would want to get them to about -50. I'm not sure how much, but any little bit helps. You just don't have to pound the bearings. This is the progress I've made. So I have assembled the front tire, so both brake calipers installed on both sides, the bearings changed, seal changed, everything cleaned up. I pumped the tire. I think I'm gonna keep the tire here. It keeps the pressure, and even though the rubber is really old, like I said, I'll just keep it for the initial kind of a ride and see how it feels. Eventually probably I'm gonna want to replace it. Same with the rear wheel. So I got everything installed, all new bearings, new seals, everything torqued. So this is all clean and ready for installation. Ideally I would have to replace this tire, and like I said, I do have the tire sitting right there and waiting, so I'll just have to replace it sometime. The next thing what I started to do is take apart the forks. So I'm waiting for the seals to rebuild the forks, but for now I'm just gonna install the triple T. So I've cleaned it up. I pulled off the bearings and seals that are there, and I went and I've installed I installed the bearings in a frame. A little trick that I use, if it's gonna help you guys, place the outer races in a freezer and keep them there. Well, if you can keep them overnight, that's even better. So if you keep them overnight, then when you pull them out, make sure they're square, and if it's square, just use a little brass punch and just drive them down. And to push them all the way down, what I just use the old race, and I put it on top, and I just hammer it until you hear this metallic sound. You'll see that the sound changes when the bearing is seated all the way. So that's all. This is ready. All I need to do, just pack the bearings now. If you look, the taper bearings, they don't have any grease, so you need to pack them with grease, and later on install the steering neck, or install the triple T in, and this will be done and ready for the forks. So that's my progress for today.